So once again, I'm sitting here with Briat, and we're about to take a look at the distinctions on page 9 currently of the main historical types of yoga, and we're going to have a short discussion about them. So in the Bhagavad Gita, there is a ladder of succession of yogas and types of yoga, and Briat is going to bring us through that procession. So where would you like to start, Briat?
Well, perhaps we can define what yoga means first, and then it will also kind of help to understand these different systems of yoga. So yoga actually, it's a Sanskrit word which means to link up to the source, to link up to the divine. So in whatever of these systems, they're actually approaching the same purpose or the same goal, which is unity with the spirit.
We call that union. So
Union.
we say that one of the definitions of yoga, one of the many, is union. So we talk about yoga being union, and also we have a quote in the manual as well that yoga is where you and I meet. What does not bring about the harmony, about this harmony, is not yoga. So we like to. So it doesn't matter what you're doing. If it's not in a harmonious way, it's not yoga.
Yeah.
And then so having said that, how would you, if we're looking at yoga as being union or linking together as how you said, anything else you want to say about that before we start looking at the types of yoga?
Interesting is that the Latin word equivalent of yoga is relego, which means to reconnect. And relego is the derivative from which the English word religion comes from.
Relego and religion.
Yes. Yeah. So one could actually say that union is the actual goal of any religion. So which paints a bit of a different picture than what we see today in many traditions. But just to kind of give the essence of what yoga is and what spirituality is supposed to be aspiring for.
What religion was based on,
exactly.
Based on its root words.
Yes.
Anyway, then their original intentions.
Yes.
And I don't think that's what people think when, most people think when they don't always think when they hear religion that they're hearing relinking up.
Because what we're seeing is not that.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so where would you like to start?
I'd like to start with mantra yoga.
Okay.
Because in all the systems of yoga, mantras are essential. They're being practiced in each, you could say, school or cult of yoga.
Or discipline.
Yeah. So it's quite interesting that they actually have, like in this book here, like mantra yoga as like a thing of itself, because throughout one's practice of whatever system one is participating in, the mantras which one chant are mantras which they change. I guess scientifically you could say they change the neuronal network in your brain. They actually, in that way, they change your paradigm in the way you relate to reality, in a way which accommodates spiritual realization.
Yes.
Yeah.
The way I'd say that, would you agree in, I like to refer to the science-based people in Tesla and Einstein, both said that everything in the universe is frequency and vibration.
Yeah.
And these mantras are a frequency or a vibration that lends itself to a higher vibration.
Yeah.
And by reciting these mantras and feeling the vibrations, we're lifted to a place of interest.
Yes.
And a higher vibration. Yeah. In simple terms. So would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
The word mantra comes from it's a conjunction of two Sanskrit words, mano triyate, and mano means mind and triyate means to deliver. So the purpose of mantra is to deliver the mind. So what is the mind being delivered from? It's being delivered from engaging in the nature of duality and into the nature of the false self and activities which don't pertain to spiritual self-realization. So by chanting mantras, one is actually being freed from the harassment of the mind so that one can actually dedicate that energy into the divine.
Into who they truly are.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
in that
which is connected
to attaining union, yeah.
So the union with the divine.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Now, I've heard you say before, and I never really thought about it this way, but I've heard you say before, is even though mantras are essential in almost every yogic discipline, is just it, but on its own, having a yoga that is just based on mantra seems to be somewhat one-dimensional.
It is. It has to be accompanied by lifestyle, by rituals. But also in this particular age, mantra yoga, or more like, or rather sankirtan, which is chanting mantras together, like with a group of people
Yes.
practicing it. In this particular yuga, Kali Yuga, is being recommended as the process of attaining union.
Okay.
It's a process of self-realization where in the different yugas before, different processes are being recommended. Although all of them are potent, but in different ages, there are different kind of parameters.
Emphasis.
Yeah, and so then there's more emphasis, so it's more accessible, this kind of yoga in this age. So with mantra yoga, when one practices mantra yoga or kirtan, then naturally the heart will change in the way which will manifest in one's life.
Yes.
So then there's that side also, that if that change is not then encouraged, then one doesn't really like progress much. And similarly, when we will discuss the other yogas,
It's
that
got
also
its
become
its
evident.
limits. In spite of the fact it's essential, just on its own, it has its
Yeah.
limits. Without practice and the understandings of how the universe works, and other practices to be able to experience the divinity in your everyday life,
Yes.
as opposed to when you feel it when you're one with the frequency of the mantra is one thing, and it is going to affect your life, but that alone might not be enough to change your entire life.
But they're very, very powerful.
They are powerful.
They're
I
extremely
enjoy it
powerful,
very
yeah.
much as well. It's very enjoyable,
Yeah.
the kirtan.
Actually, it said that a sound, like the vibration, the audible level of it dies out fairly quickly, but the vibration itself travels around the planet 7 times
Wow.
before that energy dissipates and is transformed into a different kind of energy. So when one chanting a sacred mantra, what happens is, because mantras are they transcendental sound vibration, so when they enter into the ears, they pierce into the heart and right into the soul, and it's a direct connection to the transcendental platform. So when one chants, not only you getting benefit, but this spiritual energy of the mantra is traveling around the world 7 times.
Amazing.
So it's, yeah, and not just human beings getting benefit, but even animals and trees and all kinds of living entities. Because
Everything
they're
is
all spiritual
connected.
beings.
Everything is connected to everything.
Yes.
Okay, where would you go from mantra yoga?
So with mantra yoga, which I wouldn't as classify as part of the yoga ladder, but I'd say the yoga ladder starts with karma.
Okay.
So actually, before it's even karma yoga, it starts with karma, or what is called in the Vedas as karma kanda, which is basically different rituals and activities which are performed in order to accumulate positive karma, so that you can reap beauty or wealth or power or fame or whatever it is that you desire.
Yes.
And then there are different rituals which facilitate that. So the idea is that, or this is also called fruitive activities.
Yes.
So, but after performing that for many lifetimes, the living entity comes to a realization that I'm still not satisfied. I'm still not happy. I'm still wanting more and more.
Yes.
So then what is the I then that is actually wanting? Why am I not satisfied?
Mm.
And when the person thinks like that, that's actually where spiritual life begins. And there's a Vedic aphorism which says, Atato Brahma Jigyasa, which means that at this point, spiritual life begins when one inquires into the nature of the soul.
Yes, and the difference being, for me, is what you're describing is the difference between the soul, the experience of what I truly am, and my identity.
Yes.
Who I think I am, the place that society has taught me, the place to think from, the place that I engage with the world, and how I see myself. So it's how I relate to myself and who I think I am. And when you get to that point of that, if you're not satisfied after feeding your identity constantly, it brings up a deeper question, then what am I?
Yeah. What
Okay.
am I? And that's where the yoga part comes in. Where now karma is activity, but when that activity is being dovetailed in a way which is going to elevate your consciousness to the spiritual platform, then it becomes karma yoga. So in essence, karma yoga is that one performs the same activities, but that result which one gets, one doesn't seize and try to enjoy it for oneself. One gives it back to the divine.
Okay.
So one takes what one needs for one's sustenance,
Yes.
for physical and mental, but the rest one gives in charity, or you're giving it to some saintly person or spiritual organization,
Yes.
or you're engaging it.
It's more of
in
a
that.
reflection. Is that you have your experiences and then you're reflecting them back
Yeah.
to the world. This is the things that I'm experiencing. These are the things that I'm giving back. These are the things that this is the experience that I'm having.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this process is then burning up your karma,
Yes.
because when you have performed some activities and you get the karma, you're getting some fruits, and when you're eating that fruits, you get left with seeds.
Yes.
And then those seeds will have to grow into trees again, and you'll have to take another birth in order to receive those fruits. But when you give those fruits away, there are no seeds that are going to produce more plants for which you have to take birth again.
So you stop the
receive.
cycle. You're actually stopping
You
the cycle
start,
by,
yeah,
but you stop
the
the
start
cycle
of the
by
end.
giving it away.
exactly.
Okay.
And
And
then,
have you moved off of karma yoga now? Because you're describing something else.
yeah, so then from karma yoga, it's going to naturally then progress into Gyan yoga, because at some point one is going to get this realization that, okay, I'm a spiritual being, and this understanding is coming more and more to the front of one's consciousness, that I'm a spiritual being. And then one might ask, but then why I should waste my time in all these furtive activities if
Yes.
I'm a spiritual being and I actually have nothing to do with this world?
Yes.
So then Gyan yoga comes in. Gyan means knowledge and intelligence.
Yeah. The intellect.
Yes. So now it's applying that more, the philosophical.
So I don't
Yeah.
see Gyan Yoga in my list of yogas here. So which one would you be referring to?
So the Gyan would be, so Sankaracharya's or Sankara's. It's the Sankara's emphasis on intellectual enlightenment and self-realization. So I would say he would represent a portion of Gyan,
Yes.
because his conclusion is different, but it's the same approach that he
It's
has.
an example of
Yeah,
Gyan
exactly.
Yoga.
So
Okay.
it's the same. It's the same approach that he has. That you're using your brains, you're using your knowledge, and by living a very austere life. Where in karma yoga, it's still a lot of enjoyment is there, and then but in Gyan yoga, it's absolute requirement that you have to be celibate, you have to be vegetarian, you have to be very very austere, you have to be a renunciant.
Austere and renunciant of
Yeah.
what other things other than
Everything, basically, everything material.
okay.
And the ultimate form of that is you only have a loincloth covering your genitals,
Okay.
and you don't have something warm in the winter, and in the summer you don't think about getting out of the sun and sitting in the shade or something like that, and you're just studying like transcendental literatures like as much as you can, conversing with other people who are doing the same, and in that way engaging also in debates to try and to establish what is the truth.
And it is beyond when it's beyond the intellect for me if you actually are austere, and that you are celibate and that you're vegetarian. Those are practices. So it's beyond just the intellectual for me.
Well,
It's not just the
those
intellectual
things-
understanding of the
Yeah.
spirit. There's some application here.
but that application is coming from a perspective of you forcing yourself into that
Ah.
by intellectual conviction.
Okay. See, this is discipline. So this is where you're really, when you're going from the karma, where you're really enjoying the desires and
Yes.
feeding yourself and really not questioning it at all. And then when you get into the Gyan Yoga, then you're starting to actually question it, and that you're learning the discipline.
Yeah.
And it's there's some work. I mean, it's
Exactly.
not an easy thing to do.
And through strict discipline,
Yes.
you're forcing yourself not to do certain things
Yes.
which you would want to do.
Yes. So yes, I understand again.
And then that also fortifies your intelligence further,
Well, you learn a lot.
which assists you on that process. Yeah, you learn
for the next step.
amount.
Yeah, you're learning a lot, and it might not be the happiest yoga.
Yeah, it's very austere. It's not appealing to most.
Yeah, it's a difficult one because you're giving up so much and you're not used to it, and you really haven't got the dividends of why you're doing it. Why it takes some time to actually be able to gather the knowledge through experience
Yeah.
of being austere and having the discipline to be austere to actually go, oh, there are fruits to this labor as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, exactly.
So where would you move from there?
So then, after this path of just applying the intelligence and fortifying that,
And the
one-
discipline, more importantly, the discipline for me.
So that naturally then will progress into what is called, well, here they're referring to Hatha Yoga, but Hatha Yoga is just a part of the greater like mystic yoga or Ashtanga Yoga.
Okay.
in which where one continues from that discipline, but now it also develops further into preparing oneself for a deep meditation. Whereas
everything in Ashtanga is about.
it's about that meditation.
It was originally designed. All of the six steps. Six steps were
Yeah,
designed.
so, yeah.
6 steps were designed to sit and meditate.
To meditate.
So all of it, including the postures, all of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So then that Ashtanga yoga is
Is a part of that.
yeah. So then there's the intellectual aspect also, because now let's say like through Gyan Yoga, one is also reciting a lot of mantras, because you're trying to connect to beings which is going to award one with higher understandings. And with Ashtanga Yoga, one is also chanting mantras, because one is trying to connect to the object that one is going to meditate on eventually.
Okay.
So when you get to the Pratyahara stage, you're retracting your senses, you're recalling them from the external world.
Yes.
And in the Dharan stage, you're trying to direct them on what you're meditating on.
Like, give me an example.
So some people will meditate on Krishna, some people will meditate on Vishnu, some people will meditate on Shiva, or some will just meditate
So the
on the super soul
frequency,
in the heart.
the frequency that they're focusing their energy
Yes.
on, it's a higher
Yeah.
frequency. It's either Vishnu, Krishna, Shiva, I would assume,
Yeah.
or the higher self. Is some people, speak about
or
that.
just some higher planet, some presiding deity of some higher material planet, like
I
the sun or the moon
personally focus on my higher self.
Yeah.
And I'm getting messages. So because I'm focusing there, and it's a higher frequency, I'm getting messages that I can use in my life that I can apply. That are insights of things that I have a blind spot of. I'm unaware of. But it really doesn't matter what your choice is of. I didn't know what you meant by object, and now I understand
Yeah.
that it's like higher self or Vishnu or whatever
Yeah.
your higher attainment
and
is.
the mantras accompanied with that too, which facilitate connecting to that, like Om Namo Shivaya Namaha, or Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Narayana Namaha. These are actually yogic mantras which facilitate this dhyan.
Yes. So now you're going to have to explain those things. So you said some things, and this facilitates this.
It's your meditation.
No, Dhyan.
Dhyan. Dhyan means meditation. It's a
Oh, okay,
seventh
I knew
step.
that.
It's a 7th step in the Ashtanga Yoga.
So there's mantras that actually help you be able to connect with if Vishnu is what you're interested in, or Krishna. There's different ones that are designed for you to be able to experience that frequency.
Exactly.
Do you have one for the higher self?
For the higher self, I've not heard. But the thing is that we are part
Creation.
of we are part of the Supreme. So by meditating on the Supreme, we are part of that. That is also meditation of the higher self.
Yes.
So there's no difference from that perspective, between you and God.
Yes. The way I look at it is that this is not this is a veiled me, the me walking
Yeah.
around in this world with a body
Yeah.
is a veiled me, and there's more of me somewhere else that is a greater is more in touch with its godliness.
Yeah.
But it's still me.
Yes.
And then it's connected to everything else. So that's the place that I go.
It's self-realization and God realization. They happen at the same time.
Yes.
Because they're one and the same. Not because we are God, but because by realizing oneself, one realizes one's connection to God
Yeah.
also. And therefore one realizes God too. So these two things, they're not mutually exclusive.
Yes, but it's not what people arrive at. Like when you start in your meditative process, and maybe you're thinking of a higher self. There's a lot of steps between there and for most people, and then discovering their
Yeah.
the divine and themselves at the same time. So there's a couple steps in the middle, and a few, and you leap right to the end. And I think it's important to do that. I
Yeah.
think it is. Because it's very, very clear and it's empirical. So, I do want to point to that. That's not, especially if you're not in an organized discipline. There's some work to do, and because you're not in an organized discipline, that you fumble around a little bit, and there's you've got some looking to do. Okay.
Yeah, you have to work hard.
Well, that's for sure.
You can't get anything without working hard.
Absolutely.
And self-realization is no different.
No, it is not. But it's the most delicious
Yes.
journey of of looking, because soon as it starts paying you back, as soon as you have your first insight, and then you apply it in your life, and your life gets easier, and that you have more joy in your life. I mean, I virtually couldn't stop myself from that point. So you stay with the process till you start getting benefits.
Yeah.
And then it's just very easy just to keep going.
Yeah.
And keep going. It becomes the most, for me, I call it choosing a yogic lifestyle or a transformative lifestyle. Is that's what you're always doing. I also call that you're living on your learning edge. So you're always on the edge, watching self and watching the world around you and divinity and your reactions. And for me, most importantly, my fears, because I want to dry clean my fears out of my life. And it's been really quite successful to be able to notice that I don't believe in all of these fears, and I actually stop interacting with them.
Yeah.
And that's been a really an amazing journey for me. How would you describe yours, just out of curiosity? That's how I would describe mine. Mine has been focusing on fears.
My journey?
Yeah, like, no, but specifically, what have you been getting benefits from? Like, especially early days. Like, think your first insights, when all of a sudden you were meditating and then something happened and you were like, oh my gosh,
Well,
payday in the mines.
I guess my first big thing that hit me was, I'm not crazy, everybody else is.
Yes, that does happen.
Because I was asking things nobody else was asking,
Yeah.
and everybody hated me for asking it.
Yeah,
And I was seeing things and thinking about things which made people feel uncomfortable, but
Yes.
because I thought it was important.
yes. I understand what you're
Yeah.
saying, actually, is that when certain things become important to you, because when your life starts where the king's wearing no clothes in some kind of way, when you're looking at society,
Yeah.
and we're always told how we need to act and be and
Yeah.
do, and it doesn't make sense to you, you start asking hard questions that people find really kind of not just annoying, but they find it unnecessary, because it looks like intellectual psychobabble or
Yeah.
something like
But
that.
it's not.
It's not. It's really
it's
not.
inquiry. It's honest, sincere inquiry.
Exactly. And you have to have some kind of divine angst about there needs to be more.
Yeah.
There's something's not right here. The things that I'm feeling inside of me and what people are telling me how you're supposed to live don't add up.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So I'm not buying into all
Yeah,
that
yeah,
crap.
yeah, and certainly not now after all the investments that both of us have made and the benefits that we have. I mean, why
Yeah.
would we ever change our lives? So we'll never go back there happily.
way.
But yeah.
So then, they're speaking here about Laya Yoga, which is awakening the Kundalini Shakti. So with the Ashtanga Yoga, actually that's what one is doing eventually, by generating incredible power from one's austerity and yoga practice. One is able to raise the Kundalini up through all the chakras, and actually one can push it out through the crown chakra, and in that way one can then launch one's soul to whatever destination one desires.
Okay. So once again, going to the end.
Yeah.
But so I want to go back to the ladder. So you're saying the Hatha Yoga, or which is a part of the Ashtanga Yoga, when so it's up another rung when you're starting to do Kundalini Yoga, is that you're starting to, because of your austerity and your discipline and your meditation, and that you're focusing on creating these energies,
Yeah.
and then you're focusing them on a much more disciplined life,
Yes.
and greater dividends.
Yeah, so I would say Kundalini Yoga is just something one does in the Ashtanga Yoga process, but it's not actually, like, I would say, a whole faculty of Kundalini Yoga that's being taught. It's just in modern day, I think they've just made Kundalini Yoga a thing.
Yeah.
But actual Kundalini Yoga takes lifetimes to perfect. It's not just something you can do in a few years.
My understanding about Kundalini Yoga is that it was hidden for thousands of years. The secrets were hidden in the Sikh tradition, and that was their gift, and that there was a lot of upset within the Sikh community when it was presented to the average human being. And the Western world especially, and but I think it's been a thing for a while. I don't know, why. I don't know the history enough. I don't know the mythology enough to be able to understand that why the Sikhs actually focused there
Yeah.
and why that became theirs, but it was held within their community for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And then because of that, it is a thing separate to, because there's people that are, because it's so energy specific, that you're focusing on creating energy and rising it, and the specific exercises and visuals that they have with that. It is its own unique yoga now anyway. And rightly so.
Yeah.
People seem to be attracted to brands, and,
Yeah.
and certain behaviors and experiences.
But like because it's actually coming from an Ashtanga yoga discipline, like Jnana yoga,
Okay.
it absolutely necessitates austerity,
Yes.
like simple diet, celibacy, all these really intense things.
Yes.
And in that way, actually, the average person cannot do it
Yeah.
because they're not living that kind of
The
lifestyle.
discipline that goes with it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And there are variations of it. I mean, people are doing what I would call maybe baby steps, or that they're embracing some of the disciplines, and it's creating differences in their life. They're getting
Yeah.
benefit from it, and that there's always more to go is what it comes down to. Because in this lifetime, not everybody is ready to commit fully to any one of these disciplines. And I would be one of those people. I'm somebody that's jumped into this material from the Course in Miracles, which in a few different places, but I haven't become a monk, and be celibate and be vegan and these kinds of things. I have a fair leap before I start doing, using the discipline that you've lived for the last 6 years. So I'm one of those people, and I've had great benefits for doing it, but I just haven't gone all in yet. I did say yet.
So now let's go back. The Jnana yoga,
Yes.
with their approach, they come to an understanding and a realization, actually, which means they get a direct experience that I'm a spiritual being, different from and transcendental to this material realm.
Yeah, to this experience.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the Ashtanga yogi, they have a more refined realization that the Supreme Source is also personally present inside every atom and every heart of every living being. So in that way, he's actually meditating on the super soul which is situated in his heart.
Yes.
So, and then the last stage of that, which is Bhakti Yoga. So Bhakti means love and devotion. So with Bhakti Yoga, it completes that realization by understanding that the source of everything, the Supreme Absolute Truth, is also a sentient being. And because seeing how we are all sentient beings, and we all have our personalities, and we all have our own individuality, that these qualities have to come from the source. Otherwise, where did they come from? So everything originated from somewhere.
Yes.
So therefore the source also possesses it. But why many people kind of are a little bit avoiding that kind of understanding is because our experience of individuality is one of separation.
Yes.
But you get transcendental individuality where everything is one. But at the same time, in that oneness, there's still me, there's still you, there's still everybody
Yes.
else, and
The
then
paradox.
there is God.
The
Exactly.
paradox are that everything's everything and the same energy, but you also are able to have an experience of being an individual.
Yes. So this reality is then being experienced by the Bhakti Yogi. So this type of understanding more comes from realization. Intellectually it doesn't make sense because we're using our experiences from this temporary realm
Yes.
to try and understand that. Then one is going to think, no, this cannot be. But if one understands that the supreme substance is absolute, there's no duality in it.
Yes.
So then therefore there can exist variety inside that absolute substance without there being separation between the individual units.
Yes.
So philosophically,
It's a difficult
it makes sense.
conversation about non-duality and duality,
It is,
which
yeah.
we will do a recording about just that specifically because I think it's worth actually
Yeah.
pulling that out.
It's a very nice thing. But
But
now
just-
with the Bhakti Yogi though,
Just one point about the Bhakti
Yeah.
Yogi, and you tell me if I'm right. My understanding is that because you are with the Shankara yoga and the intellect of it, and you're learning the discipline, and you're coming from fulfilling your desires, and having an okay experience in life because we have a coffee break that's coming up, and that's going to get me to that point. I'm going to have a muffin at this point. There's certain things that we're doing to kind of get ourselves through the hard part of life. We reward ourselves along the way. And we're learning about discipline at that point of we start, doing without and start understanding about that. When we get to the bhakti yoga is that because you've learned in austerity that it is the place that you want to be, that your greatest joy is in that austerity, and it's no longer a discipline so much as just your expression, and their devotion to God is that and devotion to people, the devotion to the one energy really, which you are part of, is a very natural, it's like breathing. And that the discipline at that point, it's much less about the discipline. You are very disciplined when you're doing it, very disciplined in your actions, but it's no longer work. Is that true?
Exactly. Yeah. So Bhakti Yoga will begin. There's some discipline, which is then, okay, I'll get into that now, the different divisions of Bhakti Yoga. But one very big difference between Bhakti Yoga and the other yogas is that in Bhakti Yoga, it doesn't require that intense amount of austerity. In fact, it doesn't even require celibacy, but certain principles should be maintained, like one should have a violent-free diet, one shouldn't put intoxications in the body, which will make it difficult to meditate. It kind of makes sense.
Yes.
And just simple things like that.
But you no longer need to be celibate.
It's not required. Because
why?
Because in Bhakti Yoga,
wow, that's news to me.
The idea with Bhakti Yoga
I might enjoy this. Hang on.
Is that whatever one does,
yes,
that
is a full expression of oneness. Yes.
So one's meditation daily, like in the morning there's a sadhana, and then one is connecting through mantras or whatever practice one is part of to connect one's consciousness to the divine. And then during the day, one is doing everything, like when you're cooking. It's things that we're naturally doing. We're cooking, we're loving, we're having friends, we're talking, we're singing, we're dancing. And then all these things can just be geared or directed towards the Supreme.
Yes.
So it's things that we're naturally good at. So if you're an artist, be an artist, but be an artist in a divinely inspired way.
So
if you're a businessman, make lots of money, but don't use that money for nonsense. Use that money to spread knowledge about spirituality. So and now this is also different from Karma Yoga, because with Karma Yoga, it's coming out of so Bhakti Yoga might have initially some elements of Karma Yoga, where Karma Yoga's motivation is, these things can make me happy, so what is the point in actually doing this? Let me give it up so I don't get the karma. With Bhakti Yoga it is, I love God so much I want to give. The motivation is love. It's not intelligence. The motivation is not to get freed from karma. Devotion is just love.
So the way that I'm feeling that, and tell me if I'm wrong, is life is being given, life as the divine is a gift. You've been been given the gift of individuality at the same time as that you're everything. And then all of your actions are an expression of that's the gift in this moment of what's been given you.
Yes.
And that you're giving that gift back.
Yes.
It's virtually a
it's
celebration
yeah.
of your experience of cooking, just every mundane, once they talk about before you're enlightened, chop wood and carry water, and after you're enlightened, chop wood and carry water. But they're very different experiences.
Yes. Like the Bhagavad Gita says, one who engages in his propensities for the divine, he is actually accomplished in yoga, not the one that lights no fire or performs no ritual. So basically what it's saying is, by just doing nothing,
yes,
that does not make one advance, but by doing everything as an offering to the divine,
yes,
out of love, that is actually accomplishment in yoga.
Yes.
Not one who lights no fire or one who performs no ritual or performs no duty.
Okay.
So then externally one might still appear like everybody else, but internally the heart is completely different.
Yes.
Because the motivation is just love for God.
Yes. What is mundane filler and duties that people have to do that they're not generally enjoying becomes really a gift of love, exactly, of that I am so happy to be having this experience of self as the divine, as part of the whole energy that everything that is. And it is so delicious to me that and it's so aware.
Yes.
I'm so aware in every moment. It's palpable, every molecule of how delicious all of that is. that I've actually expressing it back in thanks and in gratitude and in action. You know, for myself and for everything that is, I give it a gift back to creation as almost thanks for this experience. Is that?
It's exactly that.
Is it?
And I like the way you say that it's so delicious, because that's one thing that Bhakti Yoga gives, which other yogas don't really give so much, is a higher taste. Where in the other yogas, by your strict discipline and just by battering your mind, you're forcing yourself away from engaging in certain activities and into a certain discipline. But with Bhakti Yoga, because one is actually relishing a transcendental experience and have a higher taste, and that it's so delicious, then naturally one just continues in relishing this really incredible
Yeah.
experiences.
Yes.
And then naturally one doesn't think about lower things, like let's say for example, you know, one doesn't want to take intoxications or drugs or things. That never crosses your mind because you're already experiencing something so phenomenal.
You don't need to go anywhere
It's kind of like, why would I want this second grade stuff?
Yes. Why would I want to create my higher experience in this way?
Yeah.
Because I'm already having the higher experience
Exactly.
in my and in an unaltered way.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So what I want to say though is about the battering and the discipline and the pain of that is one of the things that I just as an example of that it doesn't have to be that bad and here's the reasons why. Like a lot of people, you're going to have to do things you don't want to do.
Yeah.
But it's just like there is also an element of like when I speak to people that don't know how to meditate and they say, and I'll ask them, do you meditate? And they go, no, I don't meditate, but I really know that I should. I really think that I should learn.
Yeah.
I think they have a sense that there's something in there for them. There's a calmness that would be good for them. And it's kind of like that, is even though that the disciplines can be difficult, like learning to meditate
Yeah.
can be a real difficult process for people because it's virtually the first rung.
Yeah, like waking up earlier to sit and meditate for 10, 20, 30 minutes.
Yes, anywhere, just sitting
Every day.
every day. You know, forget about waking up earlier. How about just doing it ever? Even 5 minutes of that, you're left with your mind. And most people need to stay busy, because they can't stand their own mind, and they're not in charge of it. But the point of it is that but having a sense that it's not just the war of discipline. Is there something really good that you can feel? If you're choosing this lifestyle, you already have a sense that if you choose meditation, you know that there's something in it that's going to be good for you. You might not know what it is, and you might not know how to get there, but you have a sense that it's true, and that can keep you. That can kind of keep the discipline, the pain of having to be disciplined. A little bit lower.
Yeah.
There's already a knowingness in spite of the fact you don't have the results yet.
So with Bhakti Yoga also, it says it starts with what's called Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, which basically means one is following like certain rules, regulations, and also a little bit artificial, because one has to learn how to tap into that energy. But the whole purpose of that is actually to get to the point where they call Raganuga Bhakti, which means spontaneous devotion, where one actually then transcends these rules and regulations, where then the devotion is just a natural expression of one's own individuality, because spirituality is a very individual thing, and it's not something that everybody experiences it in their own unique way. So now it's interesting how you see the two groups of people who take just the one. Like some people are just like, the rules is everything. Performing the rituals properly, you have to do it to the T. And then you get all the other people who say, nah, I can't accept that. You just be yourself and express yourself. But these two should actually combine, because if you prematurely try to just be spontaneous, then you actually make it cheap, and what you're expressing is not spiritual sentiment, but those spiritual sentiments are being mixed with material sentiments.
Yes.
So then the rules and regulations purify one from that. So then when one expresses it spontaneously, it's actually a pure expression.
Yes.
And you actually know, as by realization and by fact, what is actually bhakti and what is not, or what is just like a spiritual expression.
And most people are going through some mixed version of that.
Yeah.
That they will be disciplined to a degree, and they will be what will be mixed in is in their you just need to be. What will be mixed in is their fears.
Yeah.
Is the way I look at it, and it will come out, a little bit. It's baked into the stew, and there's going to be some kind of consequence. at some point or another. Depend on how much is baked in, is how soon that'll come up for you.
Yeah.
And then that just becomes, it shows itself in your life as something that's not working, and that you, if you're on a transformational yogic lifestyle, then you're going to focus on that and go, okay, how do I need to?
Yeah.
There becomes a point where you want to improve that as well, and that's most of the modern day transformational yogic people are in some levels of that,
Yeah.
in learning about that. Well, yeah, and that's
It's so diverse, and it's like
It
and there's
is.
so many different levels where one can be at.
7.5
Yeah.
billion levels, I think.
Yeah.
Everybody's got their own unique way of doing things. Even within your discipline, you do it your way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you make it work for you. It's
Yeah.
different than other people as well. And
Yeah, they're like common principles of the practice itself.
Yes.
But then when you actually dive into it and assimilate it into your life,
yes.
you develop your own realizations.
Yes, and there's also characters. I mean, some of the characters that are in your discipline are that you have to follow the rules to a T, and there's those people, and always in life, doesn't matter which discipline it is.
Yeah.
There's the ones that follow all of the rules and all of the rituals, and all this is the way you need to do it. And then there's the ones that are a little bit more of the free spirits, and they follow the same basic principles, but they're more free spirited about it. And usually they learn a little bit more discipline, and these people learn to loosen up a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To like hit the proper balance.
Yeah, and hitting the balance is always the key.
I would say that in terms of like following like a particular like discipline or a path,
Yes.
it's a good thing, but usually people not so much into it because they feel like they're selling out. But like in my experience, I found like for 6 years, like dedicated myself as a monk, which doesn't mean you have to do, but I just really like got absorbed in one process, and I shaved my head like everybody else, put on the orange, waking up at 4 o'clock every morning, and praying the same prayers with him like that. But in the course of those 6 years, I really became such a highly defined individual, even though I was forming the same rituals as those people, but through the meditation, I actually was able to develop such a strong sense of self and individuality, and I never sold out, which is a bit of a paradox. Like materially that doesn't make sense, but when one applies it properly and with the proper meditation and the sincere kind of critical self-analysis and self-improvement, then one actually comes to that point where one develops yourself and your own individuality,
I agree.
and then you can actually shine that better than before.
Yes, I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
You are a unique snowflake. That you do have your unique expression, but
Yes.
being able to do that without becoming your identity is
Yes,
what most people.
exactly.
And being able to follow the teachings and the disciplines far enough where you can actually allow yourself your expression, because you're not all robots. You're not all the same thing. There are 7.5 billion perceptions of reality because there's 7.5 billion unique snowflakes.
Well, that's human beings now, but there's unlimited amount of living beings.
Well, just here now. Yeah,
Well,
I only really
with-
talk to
with-
these ones.
Yeah, but these are human beings, but also the trees, the animals,
Oh,
the
yeah,
plants,
yeah,
the
yeah.
bacteria, they
Yeah.
all have spirit souls inside.
True.
Who all have their own unique relationship with God.
Absolutely true as well.
Yeah.
What they don't have is my experience as a people. I mean, they don't
Yeah.
have 2 feet and 10 toes.
They will
and-
have it soon enough.
yeah. Well, they can have roots and leaves. I would just like to be able to relate to them better. I like to be able to develop my frequency where I'm able to include more communicating with their
yeah.
frequency. That's
And you see the divine presence in them also.
yes,
yeah.
yes, I do. So, and I'd like to get better at that. And I know it's possible.
Yes.
It's just that it isn't something that I've got enough trouble just dealing with me and other people. The trees seem to be okay. It's us I'm worried about. So, have we come to a conclusion on the main historical types of yoga?
Yeah, I think so.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Priyat.
Uh-huh.